Welcome to the deep dive. So, you've given us this collection of articles and notes. Our job here is basically to cut through it all, find the really key stuff, and, give you a quick way to get up to speed on these specific topics from the material you shared. Think of it as your fast track through this info you want us to look at.
Exactly right. And it's a really interesting mix you've got for us today. We're seeing everything from like big market debuts, specific coin movements, all the way to partnerships, and even some reports connecting external events to market reactions. We're going to unpack the highlights that really stood out from what you provided.
All right, let's jump right in then. One of the first things in your sources was the stock market debut of Circle, that's CRCL, and the number that just, wow, pops out is this reported 168% price increase on day one. I mean, that kind of performance, it puts CRCL right up there with some pretty hot tech names involved in crypto, right?
Oh, it definitely makes a big splash, no question. 168% pop is huge. But what's really interesting in the material you shared is the contrast that followed immediately.
Right.
Because the sources also mentioned that even with that massive surge,
Yeah.
there was an analyst who came out saying not to buy.
Oh, interesting. Right after that huge jump.
Exactly.
Right.
And while the sources didn't spell out the specific reasons the analysts gave, the fact that they did explain their reasoning, despite that explosion in price, is really telling. It suggests the caution wasn't just, a whim. Analysts usually look at things like potential overvaluation after a run-up like that, or maybe long-term forecasts don't quite match the initial hype or even broader market risks.
Right.
So that detail from your sources is a good reminder, isn't it? You got to look past just the headline number, consider the fundamentals, different expert views.
Yeah, absolutely. A critical point, don't just chase the pop. Okay, so shifting gears a bit from the stock market to more industry-specific moves, your sources highlighted a collaboration. Legendary Humanity partnering up with Hashkey Group's Aeon On. This was apparently set for Singapore, June 5th, 2025, focusing on AI-driven digital fashion.
And looking at that, it kind of highlights a couple of things we often see in the materials you share. First, you've got a major player, Hashkey Group, involved. That adds weight. Second, it's this very specific crossing point of new tech AI and this growing area, digital fashion.
Right. AI and fashion together.
Exactly. It shows these innovations aren't just happening in silos. They're merging, finding real uses, and often in these recognized tech centers like Singapore. It's sort of a snapshot, according to your material, of where the focus and investment are going right now.
Interesting. Okay, so from planned partnerships to something more unexpected. Your sources also included a report that linked a political interaction to a market reaction. It mentioned an altercation between President Donald Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk on Thursday evening.
Yes, and the key thing here is the reported consequence that the source cited. The claim in the source was that this specific incident caused political unrest and sent markets into a bloodbath. Now, it's really important to stress, this is what the source claimed happened as a direct result.
Okay, so the source drew a direct line there.
That's what was reported, yeah. And the source has added another detail that White House aides apparently asked Trump to sort of tone it down afterwards. This piece, as presented in your materials, really underscores how sensitive markets are perceived to be by some analysts. Pay to things outside normal economics, even personal or political spats. It suggests, based on analyses like the one in your source, that narratives and perceived stability or instability can potentially have these really quick, dramatic effects on market mood.
Wow. Yeah. It really shows how interconnected everything can seem. Okay, let's bring it back to specific assets. Your sources tracked Compound, COMP. There was an interesting technical point reported. It apparently broke above a trend line it had been under for months. And it saw a pretty decent jump, 14.7% in 24 hours.
Right, and this is classic technical analysis territory described in your source. When an asset breaks a long-term trend line like that, traders often see it as a potential signal. It could mean the old trend may be down or sideways is changing, possibly starting an uptrend. Your source pointed this out for SciMP and even mentioned a specific target of 61 movement.
So they saw it as a key technical moment.
According to that analysis, yes.
Go ahead.
Potentially leading to more upward movement.
Okay. Now, speaking of tokens making moves, there was another one, Skate. News about Binance listing it described as a new altcoin for multi-VM blockchain infrastructure. But the detail from your source that really caught my eye was the price jump before the launch. It reportedly soared 33% prior to hitting Binance Alpha and Binance Futures.
Yeah, the pre-listing jump for Skate is fascinating, isn't it? It says a lot about crypto market dynamics. Just quickly on the tech side, multi-VM blockchain infrastructure, like the source says, basically means building chains that can run different types of smart contracts, like
Hmm.
ones compatible with Ethereum or Solana or others, all in one place. More flexibility for developers.
Okay.
But that price action,
Yeah.
it jumping 33% before it's even really tradable on Binance, that's a powerful example of how much anticipation and, frankly, speculation around a major listing announcement can fuel price movement before the wider market or liquidity even gets involved. News and hype are huge drivers here.
Definitely that buy the rumor effect in action. Your sources also included something simpler but still significant for Bitcoin. Block number 900,000 was mined, just a milestone.
Yep, exactly. Not about price swings or anything dramatic, just Bitcoin ticking along. The source provided a few details for that specific block, 1,562 transactions in it. And the average fee rate was around 3 Satoshis per virtual byte, so pretty low actually, so it's just a snapshot really. Shows the network operating as designed, block after block, hitting another big round number.
Steady progress. Okay. And one last thing, the sources you shared also reference the MAS Digital Token Service Provider license requirement.
That's right, the title was definitely there in the material, which signals that regulatory stuff, particularly in places like Singapore's Monetary Authority, MAS, is clearly on the radar in the info you gathered. However, the actual text you provided didn't go into the specifics of what those requirements are. So we know the topic was flagged as relevant, but the details weren't in the particular sources we looked at for this dive.
Gotcha. So, okay, let's kind of pull this together based on everything you provided. We've hit quite a range today, haven't we? Started with Circle's big stock debut, but tempered by that analyst caution, then that legendary Humanity and Hashkey partnership in AI digital fashion. We touched on that reported link between the Trump-Musk incident and a market dip again, as reported in the source. Looked at a technical breakout signal for Compound, COMP.
Right.
Then the really interesting pre-listing pump for the Skate token. Noted Bitcoin hitting block 900,000, and acknowledged that MAS regulation topic was mentioned, even if details weren't there.
It really is a diverse picture just from these sources. Each point gives you a little window, doesn't it, into market sentiment, where tech is merging,
Hmm.
how some reports see external risks, technical chart points, the power of listing hype, and just the steady background hum of Bitcoin's operation. It delivers that quick extraction of the key reported events from the specific materials you wanted us to cover.
Absolutely. And it makes you think, especially going back to that Skate token detail from the source, that price soaring 33% before it was even really available to trade widely on Binance. What does that kind of action, purely driven by news and anticipation, tell you about speculation and information flow in the token markets right now? How does that influence prices today? What does that raise for you personally as you watch this space? Just something to chew on based only on the info you gave us.